All right, welcome to another episode of Show Us Your Gear. This time around, we've had a couple questions in the last little bit. Now that it started snowing in Calgary, roads are a little bit worse, trails are getting worse, so it's kind of time to start figuring out what you're doing for your winter running, whether that's running inside, running outside. So we're going to gear today towards running outside, either on pathways or on trails, and what do you do for footwear, what kind of shoes work, what doesn't work. So we've had a ton of experience with this. I've run in pretty much everything, hence why we have the lovely assortment of different things all spread out here. I've tried a little bit of everything. Some things work great, some things work terribly. So we'll kind of go through and start on this side. We'll work our way across and talk about some different options for winter running shoes. So the first option is obviously just a regular running shoe. Road running shoes don't work that great in the wintertime, especially the rubber on them. Certain brands, like I know Nike and a couple of the other ones out there, their rubber actually starts to freeze once it gets below zero, so they actually turn into a more slippery compound, which doesn't work that well. So Nike's not great. Some of the other just road running brands also don't work that great in the wintertime just because they have a pretty kind of small tread pattern. If you kind of think about summer tires versus winter tires on your car. So you want to have that soft rubber, and the best place to get that is actually in a trail shoe. So for the most part in the wintertime, even if I'm running on pathways, I'll run in a trail shoe itself, and it has a little bit kind of more aggressive lug. It grips in the snow a little bit better. And so if I'm just running on kind of a nice clear pathway, I'll usually go with the trail shoe in the wintertime just for a little bit better grip. Once you start to get beyond that, where it's more terrible conditions out there, if you're trying to run on a trail or anything like that, having extra traction makes a huge difference. So kind of the classic that a lot of people know about, we'll start with this guy on the left here. So these are the Cotulla micro spikes. So it's kind of like if you were to take your tires on your car and you put chains on them. So these guys have basically got, it's a chain, and there's like little spikes in the kind of these crampons that stick out on the sides here. They go on top of any running shoe. They work on snow boots, pretty much anything. Ashley uses these a lot when she's just walking around if she's got her boots on or anything. It's a kind of a rubber system that you basically slide on top. Goes on top of the shoe, holds super securely, and then you've got this awesome traction underneath. Big plus of a system like this as well is that once you're out there, if you get to a section where like it's bare and dry and you don't need it, it's super easy to take off, stick in a pack, stick in a pocket, anything like that. And you can take it off, put it back on as needed. It takes probably a minute or so to get them on. They're a little bit fiddly, but nice because you have that flexibility. So if you're heading out for a trail run somewhere and you don't know what the conditions are going to be like, you can stick them in your pack, bring them with you, and then if you need them, you have them. And if you don't need them, you just leave them in your pack the whole entire time. So those are the Cotullas. The one drawback to these that I find, at least for me, is because they've got all the chain and everything, they're a little heavy, and you can really notice that you've got something underneath your foot. So running in the wintertime, I just kind of throw paces out the window and realize that I'm going to be way slower because traction sucks, there's snow in the way, and I've got chains on the bottom of my feet. But it definitely it helps a lot with confidence and just knowing that you're not going to be slipping around. So something like this, super aggressive, you know you're not going to be slipping. A little bit more minimalist version of almost the same thing. There's the Nortec trail crampons. Same idea with the kind of rubber that goes on top. There's this orange. It's a little easier to see what it actually looks like than that one. But basically it just slides right on top of your foot. It's super stretchy and sticks on really nicely. The difference with this one is it's actually a wire underneath. So it's this fairly thin minimal wire. And you've got kind of crampons right at the tip of your foot and crampons at the back. So when you're running uphill, you've got traction here. When you're running downhill, you've kind of got traction right underneath your heel. So still super secure, but I like these a lot more than the Cotullas just because they feel a lot more secure. It actually feels like you have that traction's in place and it's not moving around on you. So those are the Nortec trail crampons. And these are by far my favorites. They're super minimal. They pack up really small. And then so with both of these, to take them off, you just grab them from the heel. It pops off. And then it's super light and minimal, and you just fold that up, and you can stick that in your pack. You can stick that in a pocket, anything like that. So those ones work great. With both of these, because they've got those fairly big spikes, I like them on trails. I don't love them on pathways. Pathways, they tend to be super noisy and they kind of clunk around if you're out there. running on a pathway. So for pathway stuff, if you want the option of taking on and off, another really good option is Cotulla makes these. These are kind of their more city version. And it's basically got studs, like if you were to have a studded car tire or a studded bike tire. So these little studs here, they give you pretty good traction on ice. Something like this isn't going to work very well in snow because it's got this kind of smooth section here. So if you're in deeper snow or anything like that, these are going to not help at all. They might even make your shoe worse. But if you're on a city sidewalk or something like that, and there's just those little patches of kind of glare ice in different spots, something like this works really well because it gives you those little studs on the bottom of your foot. So this is the nice option because you can take it on and off. Gives you that little bit of flexibility. Moving into the rest of our options are shoes with fixed studs in them. So basically everything on this side, the big pluses of these types of systems is you can take them on and off and kind of adjust as you're out there. These ones, you're stuck with spikes the whole entire time that you're out there. So the first one, this one's a Merrill shoe of Ashley's. It's a Gore-Tex upper. So it's waterproof, breathable. The nice thing with something like that in the wintertime is that it keeps wind out, keeps snow out, and keeps your feet fairly dry. The only downside she's told me with these is that since it's a low cuff, there is the tendency to get snow kind of in and around your ankle and your socks. So you could, I guess, pair it with a gaiter as well. But these guys, they've got a fairly aggressive tread pattern that's spaced pretty far apart. So that's going to do a really good job at shedding the snow out. And then they've got spikes that come stock with the shoe that are basically just attached right inside. And I think it's a carbide spike, and they're fairly durable. So something like this works really nicely on ice. It's going to work pretty well on snow because it's got the fairly aggressive tread on it as well. So really good all-around shoe if you know that you're not going to be on any bare pavement. So trail running, or if it's a like really sloppy day and you are going to be on a pathway, something like this will still work pretty well. Next up are kind of the homemade options. So there's a few different kits out there that you can buy of screw-in spikes. And so that's what I've got in these next two. So this first one is a New Balance. I'm not sure if they make this shoe anymore. I absolutely love this thing. But it's basically inside, you've got your lace-up running shoe. On top of that, you've got a zip-up gaiter and it's soft shell on the top. So it keeps out the snow, keeps out the wind. And because it's got that high top on it, you can tuck your tights in there. And it's almost like having kind of a high top boot. And it's like this nice stretchy fabric. So I love these shoes, and I use them a ton in the wintertime. So on the foot here, you can kind of see I've basically got 4 spikes that I've screwed in. So the kit that I use for these ones, I think it's a La Sportiva kit. I'm not sure if they make it anymore. Now you can buy, it's a brand called Grip Studs. You can buy them at Mech. There's a few other things online. If you just search studs for winter running shoes, you'll be able to find a bunch of stuff. But basically these guys, you screw them into the rubber of the shoe yourself, so you can kind of pick your placements. So these ones I've played around with a little bit. I've got 3 right on the heel here, so I'm running down a hill. I know I've got that super secure spike that's going into ice as I'm running downhill. Up on the front, I've got just 4 spikes on the front there, and that seems to work pretty well. And those ones, they're fairly small, so if you do hit any pavement or anything like that, it's not the worst. It's not going to be the best for durability, but they work great for trail running as well. A little bit more aggressive option. So these ones I'll use if it's kind of packed snow that I know has been out there for a few days. If it's deeper snow, fresher snow, and I know there might be a little bit of ice hiding underneath the snow, say you're running at West Bragg and you've got that ice underneath and a bit of snow on top, something like these guys are fantastic. So these are the La Sportiva cross lights, and then it's basically just got a Gore-Tex gaiter on the top. So just like this last one, lace up inside, zips up, and you've got that gaiter. And then these ones have super aggressive lugs that are spaced nicely, so it's going to shed the snow out, and you're not going to build up those kind of extra clown shoes on the bottom of all the snow at the, underneath your foot. And then these guys, I've got 6 spikes up front and 3 at the back. So kind of a similar pattern to this one, just a few more spikes at the front, just a little bit more aggressive. So these are kind of my go-tos. If I'm not sure what conditions are going to be like, I'll go with something like these. And then the last option, this is what I first started with before a lot of this stuff was available. So in the wintertime, I used to really like running in super minimal shoes. And so I would actually just run in my cross-country spikes in the wintertime. So these guys, just a super lightweight cross-country running flat. And then they've got spikes on the forefoot. So these ones are the screw-in, screw-out spikes that actually have a metal fitting that you screw them into. So they're nice because you can replace them. You can pick different lengths. So these ones are fairly long. I think these are 12 mil spikes. You can get even nice little short ones. Only downside of something like this is you don't have spikes in the heels. If you're running downhill, you still need to try and stay up on your forefoot to kind of slow yourself down if you are running on any kind of ice. And then also the mesh on the top, because they're made as a racing shoe, the mesh is ridiculously breathable, which means that it's super, super cold. Your feet get wet, your feet get cold. And so that's the big downside of something like this. Great traction, not great for winter running kind of in that sense, but an option if you've got a set of these lying around at home. Great for those super icy days when you head out there. So I think that's about it. The only other thing to mention that I forgot that I was going to say before, with the Cotullas, the one thing you have to be a little careful with the Cotullas or with the trail crampons is because these are so grippy, you have to be really careful kind of with your footing on them, because if you're used to kind of running in the wintertime and having your feet slide a little bit on you, with these guys you're going to be super secure. And so what Ashley actually did one time was she was running downhill, turned her foot a little bit to the side, planted her foot, and I think she was kind of expecting it to slide a little bit, and the crampons gripped so well that she just went straight over and had a really, really bad ankle sprain. So with something like this, just be really careful that you are making sure that you're not expecting your feet to slide as much, and always kind of try to keep your feet facing straight down the fall line. As soon as you get a little bit sideways, that's when, if it grips, your momentum's still going forwards and you might kind of roll over on that ankle. So just kind of one word of caution with something like that. But if you've got any other questions, if you have other suggestions of things you found have worked really well in the winter, I'd love to hear stuff, because I'm always looking for new shoes and stuff because I'm a huge shoe nerd. So let us know what you guys think. Thanks. Have a great night.